Okay, okay. But you can't interview for a job. So to begin with, we're here on 4th Avenue. This street is famous because March 27th, 1964, it was hit by the worst earthquake in the history of North America. The Alaska Good Friday earthquake registered 9.2 on the Richter scale. It lasted 4 minutes and 38 seconds. It is the longest earthquake in recorded history. In the final moments of that earthquake, 4th Avenue split down the middle. The north side of the street dropped 11 to 40 feet for 12 miles. 15,000 acres of land was displaced in 42 seconds. It would have taken the equivalent power of a 20 megaton atomic bomb to have done that. So if you could catch the vision of how destroyed this town was, it was a miracle so few people died, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So on the night of the earthquake, my husband was 11 years old. He'd woken up with a toothache, and so his mother begged the dentist to come down and put him out of his misery. So he was in the corner building where you see the bear. He's on the second floor sitting at the window right next to the bear. And as you can tell, he's on the wrong side of the street. So we'll talk about what happened to him that night on that earthquake. In the meantime, at the next street corner, not this street light, the next one after this, the green spire building right there, there's a statue of a dog on the street corner. That statue's nose marks the starting line for the Iditarod sled dog race held here every winter. This race commemorates the 1925 serum run to Nome, Alaska. Nome was hit with diphtheria, and the only way to get the serum there was to mush it there through relay teams of dogs. So the dog that actually pulled the serum into Nome, Alaska was Balto, and Balto was made famous by Walt Disney's cartoon about him. So you can see the statue of Balto right there. The real hero of the Iditarod, the original Iditarod, however, was a dog named Togo. Togo and Balto were both owned by the most famous musher in Alaska, Leonard Seppala.
¿Ves?
Train is called a moose gooser. And what this train would do is go out on the railroad tracks ahead of the coal trains and bump moose in the butt, get them off the train tracks so it wouldn't derail the trains. Moose in Alaska are a third larger than all the rest of their North American cousins. They're massive. Here in our state, a full-grown bull moose stands 12 feet tall, antlers to hooves, and you can see my trolley is 11'6". So he's 6 inches taller than me. We named Vancouver, the city of Vancouver, after him as well. This is our park strip, 1 block wide, 14 blocks long, originally built as a fire buffer zone to keep forest fires from burning down Anchorage. Now the center of all of our civic activities, and as you can tell right here, this is our Martin Luther King Monument. Here's where we celebrate our Juneteenth activities. Shiloh Baptist Church comes out with their 200-voice choir and sings, and 5,000 of us show up to hear them. It's a lot of fun on that day. And only lose 9 people. Because all the buildings in downtown Anchorage were closed, they collapsed empty. Had that earthquake happened just 24 hours earlier on a regular workday, the Army Corps of Engineers believes the minimal number of deaths in Anchorage would have been 3,000 people. most of those 3,000 people would have been in West High's gym right there. The principal came to them and said, do not build here, this land is cursed, nothing you build here will ever remain. They built the docks there anyway. Then after the earthquake destroyed Valdez and they were tearing down the whole city in preparation to rebuild Valdez, they discovered that archaeologically they discovered that 5 tsunami waves cooled too quickly millions of years ago. In Alaska, it's the North American fault line. In California, it's the San Andreas fault line. In Chile, it's the El Fuego de Mundo. What happened here? These two tectonic plates began to slam into each other, and the Pacific plate down there was subducted, pushed under by the North American plate. And that's how you get the Alaskan rolling earthquakes as opposed to California sliding earthquakes. The epicenter to the south, picking up houses, dropping them, picking up houses and dropping them, much like a sock on a bedspread and you shake it. The sock moves, the houses were moving. Ladies and gentlemen, every surviving house in the earthquake had to be resurveyed. What's the legal description of your property? It's meets and rounds, which correspond to longitude and latitude on your deed of trust. Everybody's house was in the wrong spot. Then the second tragedy occurred. As these platelets collided, it created massive amounts of friction, and along our shoreline, we have an immature soil mass material called blue clay, hundreds of feet of it. That clay is like frozen jello. In another 3 or 4 million years, it'll dry and become bedrock. But for now, because Alaska is so young, it's immature and it's like frozen jello. What happens when you heat up jello? It melts. The geological term is called liquefaction. Up and down and up and down. It reaches the temperature and wham, it goes in. So the houses were rolling up and falling to their side. The next house falling to its side. Like dominoes, the layer of layer, block after block in this subdivision is piling up. And when that clay melts, the 16 homes go sliding into the ocean. Their neighbors can hear them screaming out there. The air temperature was 21, the water temperature 35. There's only a 10-minute window to save their lives from hypothermia. And without fail, fathers grabbed teenage daughters and sons, while the mothers stayed with the small children. They went into the water and went to every house until they pulled all but 7 people out. So there were only 7 deaths. She can outrun her predators in this area. So 80% of those calves are killed in the first month, and were this not so, there would be a moose in every acre of Alaska. They are prolific breeders. The female moose goes into heat the first time, the September when she's 18 months old. Her first 3 pregnancies will be a single calf. Pregnancy number 4 will be twins or triplets. The rest of her life, she rotates between single, multiple births. She'll live to be 12 years old, and she will have an average of 19 calves. 2/3 of the calves will be female. Now, that fence, the moose fence, has no purpose. She ran about 5 yards and realized she left her calf at the other side of the garden. She stopped, turned around, walked back to where I had shot her, looked me straight in the eyes, bent over, and ate the potato. So that doesn't work either. So we are here at Lake Hood and Lake Spenard, a small engine aircraft airport. This is the largest small engine aircraft airport in the world. If you take all of the small engine aircraft in the United States and put them in one big pile and divide the pile in half, 50% of the planes in America live in Alaska. Let me go over that again. 50% of all small engine aircraft in the United States live in Alaska, and 52% of licensed pilots live in Alaska. Why is it so popular to fly here compared to everywhere else in our country? Alaska's huge, and we have no roads. We will never have roads because of that permafrost. Building a road in Alaska, you come across that ice, you have to stop and dig up all the ice and backfill with gravel. It makes roads in Alaska 10 times more expensive than roads built anywhere else in our country. So we have 360 million acres in Alaska. If you saw 1 million acres a day, you'd be 5 days short of a year before you saw the whole state. The middle of